What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up to another episode of the Rebuttal? This is episode 9. The season almost over. We're coming up to the last week of the season, and yeah, it's a lot to digest. Um, Twitter has been a wild place today for the HBCU Twitter. For those of y'all that's around the HBCU Twitter spaces, been a crazy day. For a couple of reasons, right? Shout out to my guy Scotty, whose channel um, that allows me to come on and play around on his channel every Wednesday. It was a lot, he had a lot going on today. But I support Scotty 100%. I think what he brings to this space is invaluable, right? And I hate the dissension. And I wasn't gonna start the show off like this, but you know, it just it is what it is. So I'm gonna say this. I have been on jury duty for almost the last 3 weeks. So even when I came Wednesday, and y'all know I missed the other 2 Wednesdays I missed. Um, yeah, been on jury duty for this murder case, and I've long held some positions about the divisiveness that's in rampant in the community. And I give you a little backstory that I am a historian by classical training, right? I'm a classically trained historian. And I used to be one of those people. I ran for political office. I've advocated in my community. I've done a lot of work, right? And so now, probably the last 2 or 3 years, I've taken a step back because you can get drained, you can get worn out from doing the work because you can work so hard for people and still nothing really comes of it. People just they don't they don't really buy into it. And so I used to teach. I taught at one of what they would call one of the worst schools in Alabama. I used to teach at a middle school called Bellingraph, um, and worked really hard there before I decided to come out of the teaching profession. So I'm really engulfed in the work. And so I ran for a school board seat. So that's a political office that I sought for. And I actually thought about running for the State Board of Education after I was done with my local school board. I write editorials in the newspaper. So I'm saying all that to say, like, I have done, there's a massive amount of research. So I don't want to say nothing on here and people are like, oh, well, what gives you the right to say what you're about to say? I've also written about this. Like, you can Google my name in your ProQuest. You're going to see articles, published academic articles with my name on it. Okay, so let's just say this. But I used to be one of those people that that got into the conversations surrounding proximity of murder and those type of things. But what I've gathered, and I think from my position that I've gathered here recently, is we're so divisive holistically. Like, we try to categorize violence or categorize murder. We categorize certain things, but we don't understand that we all play some level of role into how into this problem that we're facing, and it's a humanity problem. We have a humanity problem in this country. We have a humanity problem in this world. And today, after finally being the verdict, given the verdict, and I don't know how your boy ended up being the foreman juror. So I had to be the one to get a note, read, kind of lead through deliberation. We deliberated almost 3 days. Okay, 3 long days of deliberation, and to come out of that after sitting in there for 3 weeks, to come out and to get on a Twitter space where we're supposed to be the HBCU community and to see the vitriol that we have amongst each other, and how, although we're not killing people physically, it is the dismissiveness of people that is causing this environment that's conducive to all of our problems. All of our problems. This HBCU space, this HBCU media space, this HBCU sports space, there's room for everybody. Yes, when I started talking about the SIAC, there was no, I mean, outside of HBCU game day, they were just, they were getting off, but there was nobody talking about the SIAC. There was nobody. My Twitter space, like I can show you DM, email, conversation after people saying, "Oh, we check your page before we check the conference page." Because back then the conference didn't even update. That conference was not good at updating anybody on anything. It was me striving, calling, emailing, just scrapping up information that I was getting. Like there's schools that they would ask me, "Hey, what's the score?" Because none of our schools really had SIDs, and so it was a lot. So when I got into this space, yeah, nobody was doing it. Nobody was concerned about the SIAC. People have come on. Y'all heard me. I've brought them on. I've introduced y'all to Jaron Russell, Just Ja Sports. They come on. I think those guys do a really good job, and I want them to grow. And every show I go on, I tell people like to invite them. And yes, me and Ja, I have differences of opinion as far as like games and the way certain things go with all these people, but it's what makes this beautiful. What I don't want to lose in this HBCU space, we always talk about HBCUs is like a family. I think in this media space, it has to be similar, same thing, because we can't lose what our edge is. We can disagree. We can talk trash on the SIAC talk. For those who watch the SIAC talk, we talk massive trash. Me and Randall was talking so much trash against each other Sunday. Like it is, we talk trash, but at the end of the day, we all have a common goal. We want what's best for our individual institutions and the conference. And so to get on here today and just to see the level of vitriol that people have, the level of disagreement that people have, it's really a bit disheartening, right? It's a bit disheartening. And to tie it back into this murder case, and I'm glad that I can talk about it. The whole incident was 20 minutes. In 20 minutes, a birthday party turned from a celebratory event to two people no longer existing. And the whole altercation was 20 minutes. In 20 minutes, 3 separate families have totally been impacted. 20 minutes. And in those 20 minutes, probably 5 seconds was high level intensity. Right? The whole 20 minutes is disagreeing. But it was about 5 seconds when it went far. 3 people, really, because the shooter, his life will never be the same. His life will never be the same. There's a lot to blame that can go around. We can disagree on a whole lot of things, but there's a common mutual respect. And there's back channels that you can handle certain things, right? And certain things just don't. I meant it's in every aspect of our life. I'm gonna tell you, like, sometimes when I go to church, I think I said this on another show. When I go to a church and I go in to hear the word or whatever and trying to get a good word, and the preachers up there talking about, oh, the haters hating on you, turn around, don't talk to that person because they just hating on you. Like this is literally a sermon from a preacher one day. He was like, oh, you get a new car, the folks trying to sneak out there and see where you got it from. They just hating on you. And I'm like, why am I coming into church to hear divisive rhetoric in the political sphere? Okay, I don't know what people political stances are. From my belief, I believe in the sovereignty of Black people. Okay, I believe in the sovereignty of all people. So you won't ever see me tweet about disrespecting anybody and their beliefs about politics. Okay, I have a really staunch belief. Yes, I wanted Kamala Harris to win. I voted for her. I also respect the sovereignty of the individual person, because sovereignty is ingrained into the idea of freedom of Black people. It's ingrained into who we can be or what we can be. So I'm not one of those people that force monolithic thinking upon anybody. Um, and so this divisiveness of dismissing people like they don't value is all this, and how no matter how minute we think it is, it's all helping to breed this level of division, divisiveness that exists at every level. There's nowhere you can turn that's not divisive. In every aspect, political aspect, social aspect, religious aspects, business aspects, sports, it is dismissiveness of people, and it's unfortunate. And it's unfortunate. Um, it used to be some show that had that thing, so I can't think of it, with the little short man, Gary, whatever his name is, and was like, the world don't beat the one drum. The world does not beat to one drum. I've had conversations with Allscript. We have conversations. Yes, there's some things that when Allscript says that, I meant that I wouldn't, but I also, I think he admits this, and he says that some of us, we have some of us are too closely tied to institutions that we can't call out certain things. I tend to do it a little bit more because, at this point it is what it is. But I don't think it warrants this level of vitriol. Disagree, don't like each other. I don't care. I, I don't care. They're the whole show. I have no problem with HBCU Game Day. I used to be on their show, right? I was on their show last year. They wanted a more concrete show at a certain time this year. It wasn't me going out saying, "Oh, they're using my voice on their intro." One of my jokes on the intro, and I'm not even on the show. I respect what those people are trying to do. They do their thing. And I don't know how do we get there. Like, I've had people who really wrote me and tried to come in between that, but I literally don't care, because it wasn't personal at all. And if it had just happened to be, I don't know, if it just happened to be, I still didn't care, because I'm gonna do whatever I do over here. They're gonna do whatever they do over there, and we just work it how we work it. This divisiveness, and it just breeds and it bleeds into other areas of our life. And it's like, where do you go for a reprieve? Where do you go for some relief? I really did not want to do the show tonight. I really didn't, because I'm really in a decompressing mode. For 3 weeks, I've sat in the murder trial. For 3 weeks, I've had somebody's life in my hand. 2 families, 3 families, really. I like it has weighed heavily on me, and then still trying to maintain. I'm in law school, still trying to maintain that, still trying to juggle. I know you off from work, but unfortunately, in what I work in, I can't be off. There's no such thing as being off. I'm still trying to. I'm managing a major campaign fundraiser for bridge builders, and we have a really high goal. We have a $5 million goal that we're trying to reach. So I don't get time. I get off there. I come home. I try to do schoolwork, go to sleep. So it has been a lot. And so on Saturdays, I try to go to the game, and I'm still trying to bring pretty decent content, trying to write a little bit, write a few articles, but it's here. And it was so disheartening to get on Twitter, to think I'm just gonna get on and read some HBCU stuff, and to get on today and just see that it really bothered me. So I'm gonna say this. I think all the people who have mentioned, no, I'm not in SWAC business. I don't look at a lot of SWAC content, so I don't know to the extent of that. Um, but I hope they figure that out, right? I hope they figured it out. January. January, but we're almost there. I need about another 1.3 million. Um, yeah, but we will get there. We will get there. Appreciate you asking that, Ms. Griffin. But anyway, let's get into SIAC football. I just had to kind of release my nerves for a second. All right, this Saturday, Lord, my days, don't worry about it. This Saturday, I drove to Atlanta. I told y'all it's been a lot. Saturday, I was like, I'm driving to Atlanta. I'm going to see the red field for myself. I'm going to see Tuskegee, get them a spot in the SIAC Championship game. Well, avoid the elimination game. I get to Clark, Atlanta. Shots out to Justin, who's SID at Clark, Atlanta. Got my passes and stuff that was there. Got in no problem. A pretty well attended game. The red field, it is what it is. I think it's a desired taste, the red field is. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. But it was interesting to go there and see. Got a chance to meet Keaton. There, hold on, let me answer Miss Griffin. Yes, ma'am. January 2025, and we would have had it. So I took over this campaign about maybe 3 months ago. This was something that they were trying to do this year. So I took over 3 months ago. They probably had raised about 50 some thousand when I got over it. It was probably a little bit more. Man, it was probably maybe 100 some, a little better than 100,000 they had pledged. So when I got it, it was a miss. But I took it on because there's no secret that I have aspirations to be an AD. I have aspirations to one day want to be a university president. So I'm working on. I've done a lot of research and trying to develop myself on the campaign raising because as been HBCU president, no matter how we want to look at it, fundraising happens to fall on a lot of our HBCU presidents, and fundraising happens to fall on a lot of our ADs. And I think that our ADs, some ADs don't do a really good job at it. And I don't think, even when you look at the job description, they don't say that. And so I think after I get done with this, I'm actually going to pitch an idea. I'm actually going to pitch an idea to the conference that I want to do a major fundraising campaign for the conference as a whole. I'm sick of seeing all the separate money, trying to raise money for this, and this at the individual institution. And I would like to spearhead a fundraiser for the conference, but that's a story for another day. All right, so I get there, and let's go up to the results. If you don't know by now, Clark, Atlanta beats Tuskegee. It was a really good game. Some questionable calls. I think those refs did us bad in Atlanta, but you can't leave it to the refs' hands. I think defensively we didn't play our best game. To me, I don't think, from my feel of the game, I don't think Clark Atlanta was ever in fear of losing that game because I think Clark Atlanta had shown me that they can score points when they needed points, and I think that was really big. Our defense did not come to play football, to be honest with you. I think we were so scared of the deep ball, and we just sat back, and David Wright just kind of just kind of tore us apart. And David Wright is going to do what David Wright is going to do. David Wright made some throws. The wide receivers made some catches. They made the plays when we needed. Our offensive line, our offensive line was, I mean, our offense was shaky. I have some issues with play calling, but that goes back to my belief. My belief is that Aaron James was a better offensive coordinator for us than going to bring in Harry Williams as being the offensive coordinator for our offense. I just think the totality of Harry Williams' tenure at Morehouse, Alabama State. I don't know if I'm high on him, and I don't, especially how him being the play caller, the offensive coordinator and the play caller when Aaron James is right there. And I think Aaron James is a better play caller than Harry Williams. And so I don't know as a head coach if somebody who's not better than you should be calling your plays. And especially at this point in the season where you're on the brink of could possibly having a losing, well, you can go, well, yeah, you can be a 500 season and can easily go to a losing season at 5-6. And I don't know how well a 5-6 season, even though I think the Bama State game probably shouldn't count, but I think a 5-5 season may not bowl completely well for James, right? At Tuskegee. So it is what it is. That next game is Benedict, Fort Valley. Fort Valley handled business. Benedict was able to score, right? So Fort Valley, we'll talk about their SIAC chances. That Benedict team, they got some fight to them. They got a long way to go. You know that the Benedict, they are definitely in a rebuild mode. The Central State Allen game concerned me because I did not think Allen was going to put 41 points up on Central State. I did not think that Allen's offense was able to put 41 points on Central State, which is one of the best, if not the best, at least the most athletic defense in the SIAC conference. Okay. And we got into a full conversation on the SIAC Talk about Coach Porter's what his pathway looks at Central State. I don't know if Coach Porter gets another season at Central State, but Central State has some bigger issues going on, right? Right now they're now under the state watch for their financial issues. So Porter might be safe because I think that they have some bigger issues to go. So he may get another year. It was bad, and I kind of talked about the same issues that he's having at Central State he had at Fort Valley State, and so now I think the bigger question has to be: is he just a better defensive coordinator than he is a head coach to actually lead a program? Because the main problem he has had is offense. It's been a revolving door of quarterbacks. He's just had a hard time, been revolving door with the wide receivers. He's just had problems on the offensive side of the ball. I also think that they've had some problem in recruiting. You look at that roster, you look at where they recruit. I'm concerned. I'm concerned that I think, and this is for any coach, I don't think that you go into a place and you don't and you got to get somebody who has Ohio ties. You gotta know somebody that knows that terrain to be able to. You should. I mean, they was all down here in Alabama getting players, and I'm sorry if a school allow you to come down to Alabama and get a player and take him to Central State is because nobody else wanted them. And there's no disrespect to the kid. It just is what it is, right? I think that they should probably, if he gets another year, I think they need to rethink how they're running that show up there to try to get better because you can win with Ohio talent. I've seen them. There's too many schools that's there. You can take all those schools out of that Midwest conference. They'll probably come to SIAC and dominate, especially this season. And so I think it looks bad. Of course, Coach Cedric Pearl is the head coach of Allen now. He was the coach that was fired before Coach Porter got to Central State. So he came there and got revenge. You know, that's not good. That's not a good look. That a coach in his first year and you're in your third year, he comes there and he beats you like that. I'm also not sure if your team has just checked out, right? I mean, you're 1-7 now. Or 1-8, whatever you are in the conference. You won one game. You beat Savannah State. And Savannah State should be kicking themselves. All right, the next game up, we had Albany State, Savannah State, right? Albany State, Savannah State, really good. I thought that game was going to be really good because Savannah State has a really good defense. They're opportunistic on offense. They can get you with big plays. Albany State has a pretty lethal offense, but they kind of they kind of stumble against, stronger defenses because the offensive line for Albany State doesn't always hold up. We saw it in the Miles game, and I think we kind of saw it in the Savannah State game. But one thing about Albany State, their offense is potent enough to keep them in games, and Coach Gray is aggressive enough to keep them in all games, right? Um, Let me say this. Brad Williams, I can't understand his recruiting philosophy. There are good high school football programs in this. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you see it with Finley, you see it with Tiffin, how they recruit. And I think that you don't have to always go and reinvent the wheel. I don't know. Sometimes we overcomplicate things that shouldn't be overly complicated. I think they should get in the fight. I look at the guys they offer. The schools in Ohio are not offering those guys. And so my thing is you got to get in that fight. You got to get in the trenches with the Finleys. You got to get in the trenches with Tiffin. You don't need to be down here tussling with players with Edward Waters out of Florida. Like, why are you tussling with Edward Waters for players? You need to be tussling with the teams that you have to kind of embody yourself around. So I don't think you go and try to reinvent this wheel, try to go and makeshift this roster. Opposed to like a Lane, I think Lane is in a different position than Central State. Central State, I think that area you're in is not overly saturated. I think you can get out there and you can really find you some really good talent. You got to recruit better. You got to recruit better on the offensive side of the ball. Your trenches has to get better. You got to get your quarterback. And you also, player development is still important in college football. It just is what it is. All right, back to the Albany Savannah State game. I think Coach Gray, he's a really aggressive coach, and I knew that was going to be a good game. Savannah State was able to pull it out. Now, if you're Savannah State, you got to be kicking yourself because you're literally 8 points away from competing for SIAC Championship. I think when I finally do my total thought processes for the year, Savannah State is probably going to be in my top 4 teams of the conference this year. I think Savannah State, and what they overcame, losing your quarterback in the first or second game of the season. Took them a while to get the offense going, to find some identity after that. What they've able to overcome, you lose a game to Lane that you should have won, but you lost it. And I don't know. And Blue Jacket says this. Savannah State took a knee at midfield right before halftime again, and that's problematic. Things like that is what will get you beat against a Quentin Gray, because you're giving him possessions. There's certain coaches, Keaton them at Clark Atlanta and Albany State. They're similar. They're similar because they understand points and they understand that it takes points to win, and they want points. And I think you see that. So, that's problematic, right? You gotta be a little bit more aggressive. Edward Waters shocks me. They beat Lane College. I haven't seen the film for that game. I need to ask for it. I was shocked. I don't know what happened there. I didn't expect Lane to drop that game, but that's so common to Lane, right? That's so common of Lane. They take you on a high here one day and then they're back down. Then the Miles and Morehouse, I think that game was pretty much as expected. Miles got a lot of teams to be able to play. Morehouse played them tight at first, because that first quarter it was like 6-3. And I think we all know what Miles was gearing up for. Miles wants to come into Tuskegee this Saturday and beat us on our homecoming, but we're not gonna have that. The Super Region 2 came out. We have an SIAC school that can possibly make it. We have Miles. Now, there was a little talk on Twitter that I think the CIAA folks was like, I think they wanted another team in and they felt some type of way. However, let me say this about Miles. Miles is a good team. Fort Valley is a good team. I'm not taking it away. I'm going to say something about Fort Valley and this Fountain City Classic that probably people not going to agree with, but Fort Valley is a good team. They have a blazing weakness though, and it's very obvious. And if the wrong matchup can spell doom for them. Miles is strong. That West Alabama team they lost to by a point. They had the game won. They missed 2 PATs. If they make one, the game is tied, go to overtime. They make the other one, they win that game. So, and you can see West Alabama is 2-7-1. Did a really good job with West Alabama. So Miles is a really strong team. When they get healthy, if they get healthy before playoff time, I think they can be a really good playoff team, dependent upon the matchup. Which is why Saturday is important for Miles. They don't want to be on the road. So they have to beat Tuskegee and they need to win the championship game. And I think those 2 wins will allow them to host an SIAC, a Division II playoff game. So I think that'll be really big for them if they can get the win. But y'all know I don't want them to win. This is the one game I'm gonna root against Sam Shea at all times. Like I don't care. I need them to forget how to play football, how they did when they went to play Albany State last year. So shouts out to Miles. And I also think that that Fort Valley, that if Fort Valley wins out, Fort Valley will some kind of way, you'll start to see Fort Valley kind of ease into these rankings. I mean, they played Delta State. They played Delta State really tight. They dropped that game to Clark Atlanta. And so those are their two losses, right? They lost a close game to Clark Atlanta, and they lost a close game to Delta State. Both games in which they had won. Now I keep seeing all these go Bears in my comments, and I'm gonna have to kick y'all out because this is the anti-Bear establishment on today. Have y'all no honor? Now I rooted for Miles all season, but I ain't rooting. Now Miles got to lose Saturday, and we ain't doing that now. Y'all taking it too far. All right, so let's get to the SIAC. Shouts out to the SIAC for. I wrote an article early on in my thoughts, and I wasn't too far off on the pathways to the SIAC Championship. So shout out to me for being able to interpret the rules and write an article, and then shout out to the SIAC conference for finally putting some out. Hold on. I think it depends on who they play. If they have to play Clark Atlanta again, then they won't, right? It won't move that much. But if you have to play a 7-2 Division II team in Fort Valley that you never played before, which Fort Valley's strength of schedule. See what's gonna knock a lot of the CIAA teams out is their strength of schedule and not scheduling those in-region games. So Fort Valley, if Fort Valley wins Saturday, expect them to be in that 10 regional rankings because some of those teams in the regional rankings they play each other. So if Fort Valley wins Saturday, you'll see them ease up, which is going to make Miles' strength of schedule a little bit stronger because Fort Valley has a strong strength of schedule. And so that's how I think that they'll ease up a little bit higher because you're talking about Miles could go, that could be a 9-1 SIAC team. And they're going to be a couple 2-loss GSC teams. And they've proven over the years that they will drop a GSC team for an SIAC team to get in there. So it is. Now I hear what you're saying. I'm not for bringing back the divisions because we never got the 2 best teams to play in the division in the East and West. I think East and West division actually cost Morehouse in 2010 or 2011. I think it cost Morehouse a chance at the SIAC Championship. There were so many years that Tuskegee would be 7-1 in the conference. They played 7 conference teams, but only 5 of them counted in the division. And then it would be their Miles or Albany State would play, and they both have 2 or 3 SIAC losses, but only 1 counted because it was division. So I ain't like division. I think divisions cost Tuskegee some championships, and I think it also cost Morehouse a championship. And so it was really hard to get the 2 best teams two best teams into the championship game. So I like this. I like this format better. What I don't like is that I think this roll on two and roll off two. I think that needs to be tweaked just a little bit. I think it needs to be tweaked just a little bit because there'll be some years that folks will have a weak schedule. So I'll give you an example, like Albany State. Albany State is in trouble because let's say they win Saturday. Their problem is because all the teams on their schedule have been weak except Miles. They lost to the one strong team on their schedule, which is Miles, but all the rest of their teams haven't even won over 2 or 3 games, right, in conference. So when it comes down to tiebreaker scenarios, that opponent win percentage matters. And sometimes you might just get a year with all your teams that you played just weak, so it works out against you. But let's get into the championship scenarios. It's really simple. Miles is already in, right? Miles is in. Miles took care of business Saturday. They're in the championship game. For Fort Valley, it's simple. You win Saturday, it's Fort Valley versus Miles. And then I could actually take a victory lap because I went around the whole beginning of the season and said that Fort Valley and Miles were going to be in the championship game. That was my talk. Whole preseason coming into game 1 and 2, I was saying Fort Valley and Miles. I felt like they were the strongest teams coming into it. So if Fort Valley wins, they get in there. Hey, guess what? I can take a victory lap. Do I want that to happen? I don't know. I'm kind of up in arms because there's still a slight window that Skiki can ease in there. And then it's hard not to root for Keaton, right? I mean, they're having this Cinderella type year. You kind of, so I'm kind of torn. It's whatever happens, right? Saturday. Who does Fort Valley play? They play Albany State. Now, there was an interesting discussion between me and Randall on the SIAC Talk Sunday. Now, I'm going to tell y'all something about this game. The higher score in this game is, the worse off this is going to be for Fort Valley. Fort Valley has a high-octane offense. Don't get me wrong. They're good. They can score. But I don't know if they get conservative. I think, in my opinion, this is going to be a high-scoring game. The problem with the statistics in the conference this year is that they're all messed up. Because in context, you also got to look at who these teams have played. Because I told y'all earlier that all these teams have like big weaknesses and big flaws. There's really not one team in the conference that's just a complete team. All of them have some horrible flaw to them that, depending upon the matchup, they can get beat. And I think that's why so many teams still fighting for spots, because it's just so much parity in this conference. So throw it all out. I said this last week and I said this again. Albany State's strength is Fort Valley's weakness. Fort Valley's strength is Albany State's weakness. And both of them have a weakness in the secondary. Ms. Griffin said, even Miles. Yes, Miles and their kicking game is atrocious. The problem that we will never know how good this Miles defense is because they cannot flip a field. They cannot flip. They cannot play field position. And with a conservative coaching staff like Coach Shade, A+ kicking a special teams component is really big on a coach that's they're not that aggressive at Miles. They're a really conservative type of team. They want to line up in 3 or 4 yards, stay above the sticks. That's their game. And so if they had a championship level special team to go along with what they have, I think they would be undefeated right now. Special teams cost them the game at West Alabama. Like I said, they lost that game 16-17. You make one of those PATs, you go into overtime with the number 2 team in Region 2. You make the second one, you possibly win that game 18-17 against the number 2 ranked Region 2 team. And special teams has just kind of hampered them all year. Not able to kick the ball deep on the kickoffs. Like they have some issues on special teams. And so either they're gonna have to beat you with a lead, but if it comes down to special teams, I'm not giving that edge to Miles. I agree the kicking games in HC football has been atrocious. Absolutely. So Albany State can score points, right? Fort Valley can score points. Neither one of them defense can stop. I think once the defenses get on the rope Saturday, it's going to be high. My belief in that Fountain City Classic game is the first team to the mid-50s win. The first team to get the mid-50s win. It's gonna take 50 points to win that Fountain City Classic Saturday. It's gonna take 50 points. Durham is gonna have to light it up, and Knowles is gonna have to light it up. But with both of them are two good quarterbacks. I think Durham is the best quarterback in the conference. Far as his like mechanics and just from a fundamental standpoint, his efficiency, yeah, Kelvin Durham is that guy. Knowles is good. Knowles is good. He makes good reads. He doesn't put the ball really in harm's way all the time. So I mean, he has some tendencies to just throw it up sometimes. And David Wright has those tendencies that when he gets in trouble, he just, it is what it is. So, so Durham's gonna have to have a big game. If somebody defense is gonna have to step up because it's gonna take somebody defense playing uncharacteristically to stop it, because I don't think Fort Valley can stop it. And my argument for that is, look what Allen was able to do against Fort Valley. Fort Valley has a problem with mobile quarterbacks that can extend plays. Clearly, what happened to them in Clark, Atlanta? Yeah. So if you go back to this, they'll tell you that Fort Valley State defense is third in the conference. But I told y'all that the statistics are screwed in the conference because of who you've played. Fort Valley has played a lot of the bottom feeders of the conference, right? And so your defense is able to kind of handle the Benedict's Edward Waters, but then when the teams that's above that, we've seen your defense struggle. Your Clark Atlanta, you struggle. Allen, you struggling. Allen is what, the number 6 offense in the wasn't there. Yes, Blue Jacket, I 100% agree. He was robbed. It was wrong, and I don't care. I think those coaches were blind, and they must have had an issue with Gibbs or somebody, because there's no reason why that man was not. That's one of the great travesties of this season. But anyway, I think that's going to be a high-scoring game. Same thing over here with Fort Valley. Fort Valley secondary, we saw Clark scorch their secondary. We saw Allen scorch their secondary. We saw Benedict kind of figure out that, hey, we got to roll the quarterback out. We can make some plays against them. That's something an aggressive coach like Quentin Gray is going to exploit. Quentin Gray wants to win that game. Gills want to win that game. That game is going to be the first team to mid-50s win that game. So we'll come back here next week. We'll talk about it. But I think it's definitely going to be the team to get the mid-50s. So for Clark Atlanta, their Cinderella season, it can all come to an end with what? If Fort Valley wins. So they got to prey on Fort Valley's downfall. They got to beat Morehouse, but they got to prey on Fort Valley's downfall, and they get another shot at Miles College, which beat them earlier in the season. The chaos scenarios, 2 teams in the chaos scenarios. You got Albany State and you got Tuskegee, still in the hunt, right? Both of them should have handled business Saturday. Both of them had opportunities to win the game. They didn't. They come up short, but still hanging on the hope. But this is how it plays out. For Tuskegee, they got to win. They got to beat Miles. That's not going to be an easy task, but, it ain't impossible. You need Fort Valley to lose. Okay, maybe, matchup styles. It's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. Now, here's where you got to almost gotta pray because you need Clark Atlanta to lose. Now, I've seen this Morehouse team. I've seen Clark Atlanta team. Unless Clark Atlanta gets food poisoning and just don't show up, I just don't know if Morehouse can pull off this. I just don't know. I don't know. It's almost like asking for the impossible at this point. Both of them, you came in the season last year, like, with no wins at the game. Well, the last 2 years, I think Clark Atlanta had 1 win or 2 wins, and Morehouse had 0 wins. But then Morehouse was able to get their one and only win 2 years in a row versus Clark Atlanta. It's a new day at Clark Atlanta. I don't see them losing that. The Allen loss, yeah, it's Edward Waters. We'll see the AME Classic, but I think Coach Moore gonna get that one. So I think a lot of things can fall Skiggy way, but that beat Miles and Clark Atlanta losing, that's almost asking for like one of the miracles of Jesus turning water to wine or something. Now Albany State, yeah, absolutely, Mr. Griffin. Lots of wishful thinking. All right, so the next thing is Albany State. Albany State got to win. I think they got a good shot at winning. I'm actually low-key leaning towards Albany State winning that game, to be honest with you. I hadn't made my final decision, but I am leaning more towards Albany State beating Fort Valley in that Fountain City Classic. But they also need a Clark Atlanta loss. I don't know. They need a Tuskegee loss, which, possible. Which is possible. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. So those are your scenarios. That's what everybody is praying for. But you wouldn't be in this predicament, though, if you were winning. All Tuskegee had to do was win. All Albany State had to do was win. And you wouldn't be in this situation. So Fort Valley, they control their own destiny. You win Saturday, you're in the SIAC Championship game. So that's just how that crumbles right now. Remember earlier I was talking about Central State. They got their own problems. Let's get into it. Central State University is under physical watch by the Ohio Department of Higher Education. Now, this is where I start having issues. Anybody who listens to SIAC Talk, the guys in the SIAC Talk, they will tell you. I tell them all the time. I live in the 990s. I live in the financial audits of our institutions. I think that our institution should start using new companies to do audits. Companies that look deeper than these same old companies, because these audits that come out from that these CFOs use, I think there are people on our campuses that are getting over on our universities because we're using outdated measurements and outdated means to try to run our institutions by. And I see these audits that they send out and they give, and it's the ones that's public that we can see their records. And I'm looking at these audits, I'm saying, you know what? This is not indicative of how we should be looking at our institutions today. I'm going to tell y'all this. If y'all don't ever get anything else from the rebuttal, remember that Kendrick told you that our universities are living organisms. They are living, breathing organisms. They are living, breathing communities. They have a heartbeat. And too many people that are within our confines see our institution as the dead institutions, just an idea. They see our institution as an idea and not a living organism. And that's what's causing the downfall of some of our institutions. Now, all the way back when Trayvon Martin died in this white philanthropy, okay, history would tell you that this has happened a many times, right? Where something happens and then white empathy kicks in and white people start to give their money in these droves to these black institutions. What these institutions do with this money is really important. Okay. What they do with this money is important. Now, back when the George Floyd thing and all the money was coming in, some of our institutions wanted to win The headline battle. Oh, y'all know, y'all remember the headlines. Oh, this school paid off all their student debt. This school gave these folks checks in these schools. None of those schools are winning. I thank God that Tuskegee decided to take their money and pay off their debt. Because you were never going to have this opportunity again. Some of our schools should have stopped trying to win headline battles and get out of debt. Free your money up. But no, they want to win headline battles. That's why I think somebody should go to jail at Talladega. I think that administration should go to prison. What they did at Talladega. They was asking for Jim to, and and this goes back to the point about Scotty, that people mad at some of the stuff Scotty calls out. But somebody should have called out Talladega. It was horrible what they did. What Talladega did when they got that money and you take your payroll. And it's crazy because you don't even have to do the deep dig that I did. Go pull up their 990 from this COVID time. They got this COVID, they got this influx of money. When they got this influx of money, their payroll was around 700,000 to like 1 million in the years before. You get this influx of money, and all of a sudden, your payroll, not an increase in your workforce, but somehow your payroll jumps from 700,000 to like 9 million. Y'all should go to prison because you robbed that school blind. And then want to be able to hide behind, the HBCUs, we don't have money, we poor. No, you were not good stewards over what you were given. You were not working hard enough. You were not striving enough to offer a service. You were not working to ensure that this university had a future. There are some things that I feel like Talladega should have been offering, that they should have been moving towards to try and make their institution relevant again. It is horrible what they did, and that's why they should go to prison. I think the last administration at Kentucky State should go to prison. I think that past president that just dotted out of town should go to prison. Now here we go with another one. Central State president. A lot of people don't even know Central State have a new president, because their president left in the middle of the night because they knew what they were doing was wrong. Now, I say that all the time about the COVID money. They should have done what they did with the COVID money. Now, this is the article, because sometimes y'all don't believe it till it comes from other people. This is a quote in the article. Post-pandemic, institutions of higher education nationally are facing constrained finances. That money was not going to last forever. So you better have put that money to good use. You better have expanded your investment portfolio. Your school better have invested in some private equity that could generate money, because all of our schools need to be thinking about sustainability. All of our schools should be looking at how can we get to be self-sustainable, because eventually, I know the talk around the Twitter is Trump won, right? And we all know Trump said to get rid of the Department of Education. And I know a lot of people say, they're going to get rid of the federal Pell Grant. But if you look at that bill that they already submitted about getting rid of it, they actually said they want to keep the Pell Grant, right? But y'all know how we also talk about student loan forgiveness. We keep forgiving student loan. The banks are going to eventually, some banks have already gotten out of the student loan fiasco. Like they moved away from it. A lot of people don't follow it like that. So there's only a few banks left that's still in there. Once those banks decide, you know what, this government backing of this, it ain't working, we gonna get out student loan banking. A lot of our schools are gonna be in trouble, because even those federal loans come from a bank that's backed by the federal government. Once that ends up, and this is even outside even the Department of Education last, there is a student loan bubble that's blowing up. our schools have to start thinking about how to be self-sustainable. How can we run our budget with tuition not being the main contributor of our budgets? Tennessee start researching it. So you see some of the schools, I think in Massachusetts, you see some areas that they already offering free tuition to in-state, right? That the school itself is offering free tuition because they have found different modes and models of revenue, different revenue streams. So our schools should be pivoting to trying to find revenue, right? To me, it's mind-boggling, okay, at some of the things that we have going on. But anyway, they say with today's physical watch declaration, Central State University will receive assistance in adapting and positioning itself to become an even stronger and more competitive institution. So this is what happened. This is the backstory. The new president got in. He asked for the audit. He saw the audit, and he was like, whoa, we are in dire financial need. He said, whoa, I thought we had more cash reserves than this. I thought we had more money than this. Why in the world is this? He fired the CFO because he felt like something wasn't right. I went and looked at the audit. They had an audit in 2022 that a company did, and that company said that they had so many issues they could not show them the money that's coming in. They had financial aid. Like, it was no checks and balances. Central State was just running amok from the financial side, and it shouldn't be. So shout out to this president, not just trying to sweep it on the rug. He goes to them and says, hey, we need assistance. Help us out. So they asked the state to get him in advance on the money that they would give, right? They wanted in advance subsidy to help them out. And the state said, well, the state has 8 ways that they'll come over and kind of like give oversight of your university. So these are the 8 criteria. And Central State met those 8 criteria. You can Google this article. This was some of the things that Central State had. The state university failed to make any payments to vendors when due during the quarter covered by the report. Nobody was getting their money at Central State. The state university requested in advance of state subsidy money during the quarter covered by the report. Like I said, they need their money. Hey, help us out. State University projects a significant negative variance between its most recent adopted annual budget and annual revenues and expenses at the end of the fiscal year. A budget was made, and I guess they had no idea what they really had. The budget was so far off from the audit that it was just too far. Okay. And I'm telling you, you go look at the audit. I ain't gonna put all these business out on here, but you go look at the audit for 22, it's gonna blow your mind the level of debt or how far they went under in getting his money. So Central State is got to watch. Hopefully they get a good team together. I hate when they have to go to the state because it breeds some issues. They're going to be under strict watch. Everybody got to be on their P's and Q's. But I hope while they're doing this alongside this, I hope the president is also developing some type of think tank to work alongside the university to start looking at how do we build our foundations up. When I look at North Carolina A&T, you can say whatever you want to say about North Carolina A&T, but that A&T foundation and that real estate portfolio that they have that's basically bought for that foundation, it's amazing. They're making money. That's how they're able to fuel their growth. Don't be deceived. There are a lot of headlines that's going to woo and blow your mind. A lot of universities, they getting in debt. I mean, and by getting in debt, I mean they're offering a lot of institute scholarships, a lot of this new enrollment that's at our institutions because they throwing a lot of money at kids to get them in. They're getting debt. Everybody's building a lot of buildings, but I'm telling you, debt is crazy. It looks fun. It feels fun. It feels fun. But this is my belief, okay? And this is how I would approach. So I'm telling you, when I want to be a president, and y'all, if any of y'all sit on the committee, y'all would say, you know, he said this a long time ago. I was at a church and I was on the planning commission one time, and they wanted to build a new sanctuary. I said, okay. I said, well, let's go and see how let's see how much that loan would cost us a month. Like, we don't have to just jump into it. Let's see what that loan will cost. Let's go to the bank. Let's go through the process. Let us see what a monthly payment for that payment would be. And let's pay it for a year. Before we build ground, I mean, we're not finna build ground tomorrow anyway. We're not finna break. Let's pay it for a year. Let's set it up. Let's set it aside. Let's plan. Let's strategize. Let's see how tight it will constrain us to pay it. And then we're paying it and it's in the account. So when it's time to come, we're already a year ahead of the payments for, just in case some things kind of happen. And things happen. And in the church, memberships fall off, scandals break out, all kind of things happen. And I want y'all to know, they disagree with me. Some people agree with me. Some other things happen in the church, and right now that church is under foreclosure. And I ended up talking to one of the deacons there, maybe last year, and one of his things was like, we should have listened. We should have did that a different way. The way we approach things is from this emotional standpoint. I'm not impressed by headlines that people say you're building this. I'm not impressed by that, because a lot of our schools are drowning, because that becomes a liability. The insurance to insure new buildings on the campus, a lot of people don't know that. I don't think we build buildings correctly on our campuses. I don't think we build buildings for the future. I'm here to tell you, like, everybody know UBT and Tuskegee. One of my positions is, if we build a building at Tuskegee, we should be building buildings that at least 50% operating off solar. We got the land. We're doing the research. The solar research is right there. We shouldn't be building buildings that's still gonna cost us, adding into the money we got to pay to UBT. We should be, when we build, we have to build for the future. No way I would have bought lights to Tuskegee and had them attached to UBT. Those lights would have been attached to their own solar generating system. I would not have bought lights into the university to have to pay more money to the UBT company. Because we have to plan and chart for the future, not for the feel good at the moment. And that's what a lot of institutions are doing. And I feel sorry, because let's go back to it. This post-pandemic is coming. This post-pandemic, this is coming. It's coming down the pipe. This money that we're sitting on, this influx of money, is there. Now you see our institutions are going to have to shift, because the money finna dry up that was coming. I think they all felt Harris was going to win. She was going to throw a bunch of money into our institution. Well, if you plan for the rainy day, you have to plan. You're right, Ms. Griffin. It's here already. You have to plan. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to get in $100 million worth of debt on campuses right now. Not when I can make it, and then not when I can make it. And I understand a lot of our institutions, they're trying to deal with their housing issues, right? They're investing a lot of money. Central State got like this $40 million project for housing that's really weighing on them at the moment. But there's other ways. I look at, so there's a school in Montgomery called AUM. AUM what they start doing, they start buying up all the apartment complexes. Okay, we're gonna spend $40 million to build one. So what they say is, look, we can take 5 and buy this apartment complex. And what we can do is this section right here, student housing. The next section out right here, we rent out at market price and we get money. Now, here's the big deal. You also save. It's smart because AUM they give a lot of institutional scholarship money. So basically, that money that you're giving students that's kind of include the housing and boarding, it's really not money at all because you already own that piece of property. You already own it. And then you're generating money on the other side because you have those people occupying the space. And so they're playing one-on-one. So basically for every student that's there, they got a paying, so let's say it's a 160 bed or 120 bed room, door complex. And I'm just the raw numbers. So if I'm gonna put 60 of my students there, you're gonna put more than 60 students there because you're gonna probably have 2 or 3 into an apartment or whatever. And then for everyone, you got a tenant. And that tenant is what's generating you the money. So you buying these, but when we build them on our campuses, or when we build these dorms, guess what we're not doing? We're not making no money off this. Ain't no money. So you're not generating income. So you're getting $40 million in debt. And then we're not even building these buildings to last. These new buildings, they're not lasting. These buildings are crumbling. I look at how horrible these new buildings are that we're building. They're horrible. They're horribly built because capitalism has just hold it. And if you don't have good facilities, maintenance departments on your campuses, you in trouble. Mold is an issue on all university campuses. So why are we still putting regular sheetrock in there when the data suggests that we should be putting hemp sheetrock in there because hemp sheetrock is breathable and it doesn't hold mold? Yes, it makes the cost higher, but what you get from not having to go back in, if you make the initial investment, you don't have this problem down the line. And so I get frustrated about it, but it is what it is. So pray for Central State. I tell everybody all the time, just like when I talk about Kentucky State, people got to keep a watch on their institution. You got to ask. You got to be on the Zoom call. Email your president. Call. See what's going on. Ask them people on your trustee boards. Write them. See what's going on. Hey, I don't like this. This here. What's going on? How can we help? How can we help? Our institutions need to be better on that too. On what exactly that you need. What exactly that to go forward. We got to be a little bit more present. We can't just be so googly-eyed. I'm not googly-eyed with administrators at campuses. I'm not at all. When I saw Dr. Holloman at the SIAC game, the first thing I asked him, hey, what about these tiebreaker rules? I'm not trying to say that I'm the reason why they put the tiebreaker scenarios out, but did they do it last season? No, they didn't do it last season. So when I first signed them, hey, what's up with this? So that's it for this week. That's it for the rebuttal this week. We'll know next week who goes to the championship game. We'll be back. Hopefully the God Tuskegee gets a homecoming win. It's homecoming at Tuskegee. Y'all pray for us. We need a win. My boy James needs to win. And we'll go from there. We'll see what happens. I plan on being at the SIAC Championship game regardless to who wins. Hopefully I can get the guys rallied up and we can do some type of live show at the SIAC Championship game. I really think we should be able to set that up. I think SIAC, we should be able to do some type of pregame show with me and the guys side talking, the other guys that just Josh Sports. Like I think we should be able to set some up. So maybe I need to send a few emails out and see if we can work some out and see what happens. But I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Until next time, this is the Rebuttal.